Good morning, 10th grade. How are you? I am your English teacher, Ella Hindi from the International United Schools for Systems. English leaders, the ransom of the Red Chief. Unit 6 and 7. Questions and answers. In this lesson, we are going to ask and answer some questions to understand our topic, the ransom of the Red Chief. The first question, what is the central idea or the main idea of the ransom of the Red Chief? In the ransom of the Red Chief, one theme or main idea or one main idea of the story that the author is trying to convey that explored is a warning against taking the easy way out. Bill and Sam try for easy money, but find themselves in over their heads when they kidnap the wrong kid. Who are the main characters in the story, The Ransom of the Red Chief? Protagonists Sam and Bill, though they are kidnappers, the reader identifies and sympathizes with them. Or Johnny Dorist, اللي هو Red Chief, he also is the main focus of the reader's attention. Antagonist, if Sam and Bill are seen as the protagonist, إذا إحنا شفناهم protagonist معتدين, then the force against them is Johnny. The last characters كمان بدك تضيفوهم اللي هو Benzer Dorset. What is the plot? What is the plot? شو هي الحبكة of the ransom of the Red Chief? It follows two men who kidnap and demand a ransom for a wealthy Alabamian son. Eventually, the men are driven crazy by the boy's spoiled and hyperactive behavior, and they pay the boy's father to take him back. What did Red Chief threaten to do to Sam? They are afraid that someone may have murdered Red Chief. They are worried and anxiously searching for Red Chief. They are in disbelief that a kidnapping could happen in a small town like Summit. How does Red Chief feel about being kidnapped? ما حد سألنا عن شعور الريد شيف نفسه إنه هو مخطوف. He thinks it's like a camping trip. He enjoys it because he gets to do things he can't do it at home. He knows that his son is impossible and he must طبعا هذا شعور مين؟ الفاذر هلأ. He must be driving the kidnapper crazy. What is ironic about the ransom of the Red Chief? The reader and Sam can see that the boy is still there as Bill apologizes for giving up the ransom. Situational irony is when the opposite of what you accept to happen occurs. This occurs when, instead of getting a ransom of the Red Chief, Bill and Sam end up paying the boy's father for taking him back. What is the rising action in the ransom of the Red Chief? شو اللي صعد الأحداث والأكشن اللي صارت في هاي القصة؟ The rising action happens after Sam and Bill kidnap Johnny Dorset. Johnny believes they are trying to play a game with him, when in reality, they are kidnapping him, the boy proceeds to play Indian with Bill Driscoll. The climax is when Bill and Sam can no longer take care of Johnny Dorset. حد هون بلشت الأحداث تتفاقم. What's the meaning of Red Chief? What's the meaning of Red Chief? First meaning, he is the head leader or most important individual in a group or body of people. Number two, another word of chieftain, elderly, the upper third of a shield. Number four, in a chief primarily, especially. هدول مثل 4 معاني بمعنى Red Chief. Who was Bill in the ransom of the Red Chief? Bill, the scroll of the ransom of the Red Chief, is a conman who, along with his partner Sam, decides to kidnap the son of a prominent citizen of the small town of Summit, Alabama. With Sam, Bill assumes that the residents to such a deleterious and self-satisfied class of peasantry will be easy prey. Does Mr. Dorset ask the kidnappers for money? Yeah. Why? Dorset asked for money so he could take his child home. This shows that the father doesn't have a relationship with his son. How do Bill and Sam finally get rid of Red Chief? Bill and Sam finally get rid of the Red Chief by paying his father to take them off their hands. This is ironic, to say the least, as the two hopeless kidnappers and hoped that little Johnny's father would pay them a ransom for returning their son. Why do two men call themselves desperate? ليش? The ransom letter is signed two desperate men. The apparent intent is to suggest that these kidnappers are capable of doing anything if the boy's father doesn't meet their demands. The word desperate is intended to suggest that they know themselves to be outside the law. Who paid the ransom for the boy? Who paid the ransom for the boy? They figured that kidnapping a kid from a small town would be easy ransom money. Bill and Sam choose to do their kidnapping in the town of Summit. He can afford to pay a small ransom to get Johnny back. Why do Sam and Bill need money? They need the money for a land swindle. Affected Bill and Sam's plan to get money. Why is it ironic that the boy catches Bill neatly in the eye with a piece of a prick? These actions by the freckle-faced 10-year-old boy ought to have given Sam and Bill fair warning that he was going to be hard to handle. They also foreshadow the coming troubles for the benefit of the reader. تعتبر هاي فائدة للقراء اللي هي تعتبر من أساليب الفورشادوينج اللي حكينا عنها امبارح. What is the setting of the story Ransom of the Red Chief? Yesterday we talked about the setting of the story, the Ransom of the Red Chief. The story takes place in Alabama, as Sam tells us in the second sentence of The Ransom of the Red Chief. في الجملة الثانية حكى عنها We were down south in Alabama, Bill Discroll and myself, when this kidnapping idea struck us. Sam and Bill intend to kidnap the boy in the town of Summit, which appears to be a typical farm town. Which character is most afraid of Red Chief? Sam. This character is the most afraid of the Red Chief. Sam. What is Red Chief's real name? شو الاسم الحقيقي له؟ Johnny. Johnny, Red Chief's real name. Who is in charge of the situation at the cave? Henry's story of comic reveals two gunmen named Sam and Bill kidnapped the small red-headed son of Ebenezer Dorset. From the time that they bring him to the cave until he is returned to his father, Red Chief dominates Bill, who is assigned to keep the boy there. How did the kidnappers demand the ransom to the boy's father? The criminals write a ransom letter to the boy's father, lowering the ransom from 2,000 to 1,050, believing that the father won't pay much money for his return. The ironic situation is where the kidnappers have to pay the father to get his son back instead of the father paying the kidnappers for his son. How reliable is the narrator in The Ransom of the Red Chief? He is very reliable because he knows Bill. He is very reliable because he is one of the kidnappers involved in the scheme. He is not reliable because he is not involved in the kidnapping scheme. Why did Sam and Bill choose the town of Summit to commit the crime? اللي اختاروا هاي البلدة. They choose Summit for several reasons. First of all, it is a small town populated mostly by farmers, workers, and tenants. Bill and Sam think these people will be pretty harmless and will not give them a lot of trouble. Who is Mr. Dorset? Ebenezer Dorset is Johnny's father, a wealthy businessman in the town of Summit. How do Bill and Sam finally get rid to Red Chief? They are tired of the boy. What is the climax of the ransom of the Red Chief? Climax معناها شيء ذروة الأحداث. لوين وصلت القمة؟ climax اللي هي ذروة الأحداث. عند وين وصلت؟ The climax or the place in the story immediately preceding the resolution of the conflict, when the tension is at the highest level, occurs when it becomes apparent that not only will Bill and Sam not receive the ransom they have demanded, but they will actually have to pay Johnny's father to take him back. What plan does مش حدا يقول لي هلا ليش حطيتي does. What plan أنا بقصد الخطة. What plan does Bill and narrator come up with? Bill and me اللي هو narrator had a joint capital of about 600 to pull off a fraudulent town lot scheme in western Illinois with. The two men come up with the idea to kidnap a kid in order to earn a ransom. They are hoping to get $2,000 in addition to the 600 that they have. What is the moral lesson in the ransom of the Red Chief? The moral of the story is that one should never underestimate the power of one's opponent. Why do Bill and Sam agree to the terms of the Mr. Dorset's letter? They are tired of the boy. What is the point of view of the narrator of the ransom? The ransom of the Red Chief is told from the first person point of view. The story's narrator is Sam. The story's narrator is Sam. لا تنسوا. One of the hopeless kidnappers who hold little Johnny Dorset for ransom. What is a foreshadowing? I told you yesterday about it. What is a foreshadowing? Foreshadowing is a literary device used to give an indication or hint, تعطيك hint, of what is to come later in the story. Foreshadowing is useful for creating suspense, a feeling of unease, a sense of curiosity, or a mark that things may not be as they seem. شيء إيش مش زي اللي أنت كنت تفكره. And the definition of foreshadowing, the word hint is the key, اللي هو إشارة لما سيحصل ويعطيك عنصر تشويق. What is the best example of foreshadowing? شو يعني المثال على الفورشادوينج؟ إيش هو عنصر التشويق اللي حصل في قصتنا كان، أو فينا نغير السؤال ونحكي what are the best examples of foreshadowing. Common examples of foreshadowing again is a sign of upcoming events, worry and apprehensions of characters also foreshadowing. A character's thought can foreshadow. Narration can foreshadow by telling you something is going to happen. Prediction can obviously foreshadow. Symbolism. Why does Sam ask Bill if anyone in his family suffers from heart disease? The brief answer is that Sam doesn't want Bill to have a heart attack. Or at least, he is acting as if he is worried that Bill will have a heart attack. So he asks Bill if anyone in his family has had a heart disease before he tells Bill to turn around. What is the stages of the liberated prisoners' experience outside the cave? It is described that first they will suffer from sharp pains. Do that since they were chained from childhood without moving their leg or necks. Then they will have pain in their eye due that they are not used to the light of the sun. The last question, what is the best description of Johnny Dorset? أفضل وصف لجوني دورست. Here's a story, The Ransom of the Red Chief, which is the best description of Johnny Dorset. He is freckled-faced boy with red hair who enjoys being outside camping and playing make-believe games such as a cowboy and Indians. هذا هو أفضل وصف لجوني دورست. Finally, you have a homework, my dear students. عندكم واجب. Find out or extract from the text 3 examples. 3 أمثلة لكل واحد من يلي تحت. 3 على بارت 1 الجزء الأول من قصتنا، و3 على بارت 2، يعني 6 أمثلة على noun، يعني بدي 6 أسماء تعطوني إياهم، عن adjective صفة، adverb preposition phrasal verb. That's it. Have a good day and have a nice weekend for all. Bye bye.